Just thought I'd let you know that we have just launched the podcast on YouTube. Tune into our electrifying conversations with local runners and expert guests, covering everything from training tips to inspiring stories that'll have you lace up your sneakers in no time. But wait, there's more. Spread the word like wildfire, and don't forget to hit the share button, tell your running buddies, your workout pals, heck, even tell your neighbour's cat. Everyone deserves to join the running revolution. So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name is Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. Welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Well, welcome back to Brian's Run Pod, and I hope you're having a great week. Now, I've just recently joined a gym, New Year's resolution and all that, and it just so happens to be where I used to work. Anyhow, I bumped into a friend of mine, Mark, and told him about the podcast. Mark is a golf pro and said, I know just the person to have on your podcast. He'd be a great guest. His name is Paul Piper and is the man behind Perfect Splits. Now, folks, Paul has been in the running game for over 12 years, and his journey from a 3:20 marathon debut to a mind-blowing 2:22 personal best, by the way, that's 17 kilometers per hour on the treadmill, is nothing short of inspirational. So Paul is not just a speed demon on the roads, he's also a fully certified UESCA running coach. And get this, he's conquered 24 marathons to date, including all 6 world marathon majors. Now, that's some serious globetrotting for the love of running, he says. And I quote, I have launched the Perfect Splits running because I'm incredibly passionate about running and the positive impact running can have on people's lives and the wider community in general. My goal is your goal. My passion for running can help you achieve your running potential. So let's give a very warm Brian's Run Pod welcome to Paul Piper. So how are you doing, Paul?
Very well, Brian. Thank you very much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Great. What I do with most of my guests is I kind of go back to right at the beginning. I just want to know as to, at school, were you kind of really much into exercise? Were you into running? What's your story?
I was very sporty, and we used to do cross countries occasionally, but it was nothing more than that. And the sort of like summer sports day, I used to have reasonable ability. I'd be in the top 3 or 4, but nothing outstanding. So yeah, it was later on in life where I found my passion in running, particularly distance running.
So you were sort of quite average. Yeah.
Pretty average, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But you didn't do any sort of like county sports or anything like that?
No, not at all. No, I didn't qualify for any county cross-country races. Within my school, I was normally in the top handful of runners, but yeah, nothing that really stood out particularly. Okay. Yeah.
And then at university, was there, I don't know, did you do anything?
I didn't go to university. I went to college.
Yeah,
I didn't get into any sports teams there. I think my focus was slightly leaning away from sports at that point when I was sort of like growing up and stuff. And I went to Australia for a year and a half, and that was like a backpacking, working holiday. And I watched a lot of sports and in pubs and stuff and drinking, but not actually partaking in any sports. So it seemed even further away that I'd be taking up marathon running at that stage.
Right. So I know from looking from liaising with you and looking at your notes here is that basically you started at age 29. So why so late? I mean, did you kind of wake up one day and you got this kind of like, epiphany and, suddenly, oh, right, I need to start running? Or was there any health, concerns or anything like that?
Looking, so much has gone on since then. It seems like 34 years ago.
Oh, right.
But yeah, I think it was just a case of doing a marathon and ticking it off and having that on the CV sort of thing and then moving on. But
right.
it never quite moved on. It was it just stuck with me, and trying to progress with quicker times through the years. And I had quite a big jump in times from my first marathon to my second marathon, and then on to my third marathon. And then before I knew it, it was all about heavily involved in getting quicker marathon times. So,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
Certainly when I was hitting 31, 32, then I was taking my running quite seriously, really.
Oh, okay. So what was the time for your first
3 hours 20.
3 hours 20?
Yeah, London Marathon.
So you must have had some, you had some ability, because that's quite a quick time.
I guess it's a fairly quick debut. I know of people that have debuted under 3 hours, which is quite exceptional. But I guess 3:20 is quite good. My goal was anything under 3:30 on the day.
Yeah.
And genuinely, if it had been another half a mile in distance, I don't think I would have made it. My brother was there at mile 25.
Yeah.
And still to this day, he talks about the look on my face. I was completely out of it.
Oh, really?
I'd hit the wall. I was really clinging on at that stage. And just obvious errors of not consuming any gels throughout the race. I was pleated.
Oh, I see. So you hit the so-called wall. Yeah,
I hit the wall in my first marathon, which is not uncommon.
Yeah.
And I went off too quick. And when I've done London Marathon since then, I remember times of going around the Cutty Sark where the crowds are the deepest, 10 deep sometimes, and that's around about the 10-kilometre mark, and just like increasing my pace and the buzz and depleting my energy stores early on. So just all the usual mistakes, really.
Do you, we'll take a photo of you later before I forget, but you're quite a slight build. Do you think your body lends itself to endurance running, and for marathon? Or did you look quite different then?
Like, I was just going to say, if you'd have seen me in my 20s, I don't think many people would have guessed that I'd be running sub 2:30 marathons. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So training for my first marathon, I effectively lost about 4 stone in weight.
No.
Yeah, in the space of 3 or 4 months, which is probably not recommended to lose it that quick. Yeah, I'm not the perfect build, but I think I'm on the slighter side. Yeah, that does help, certainly. Yes.
Yeah. So in your opinion, do you think, within reason, that, there is sort of like the perfect, sort of build for doing marathons?
Yeah, I mean, lean muscle be key, and in races where I've been lucky enough to be fairly close to the start, you see the East African runners, and it's just incredibly lean muscle mass, and obviously very light on their feet. Some of the elite Kenyan ladies or Europeans will be, 45 kilos, and the men 55 to 60 sort of thing. Yeah, so it's it's very minimal actual fat. Yeah.
But then I've heard that their kind of power to weight ratio is kind of
absolutely. Yeah.
So, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So did you? I mean, you kind of set the goal as being the marathon, but did you go to any other sort of distances at the time? Doing 10K, or even starting off at doing like 5K. Then obviously it wasn't a park run then, but
even in my first few marathon training blocks, I'd throw in like a half marathon a month to 6 weeks before, which offers a really good indicator of how quickly you can run the marathon, the target time. And it's nice to target PBs within a marathon training block, which is perfectly feasible, including 10Ks, throwing in the occasional 5K as well. So, So my second marathon, the target was to get below 3 hours. And obviously I knew I needed to run the half marathon, low 120s to 125 maximum, probably, to put me in that kind of shape to know that I can hit a sub 3 hour. So I think I ran Ealing, which is a fairly tough course, in about 122. So I thought, a decent day in Chicago, I can go under 3, and I did just 2:59. So that was quite a big barrier. To get.
So you weren't a full-time athlete at the time, were you?
No, I've never been a full-time athlete.
Oh, you've never been a full-time athlete?
No.
Oh, right.
No, so I do a full-time job as well, also at the airport. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And also I run my coaching business, so it's
okay.
quite a heavy schedule to work around. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. But you, I mean, not wanting to jump ahead, but basically, because you've done the time that you've done for the marathon, you can you register as an athlete?
I would, if you're putting a title on it, I'd say it enters me into a lot of races as an elite in inverted commas, but I'd sort of like qualify it more as like sub-elite, really. I think elite times, I don't really qualify my times as elite times as such. Yeah. But in a lot of categories, like they'll say elite places at certain times, and they'll throw in these times. Yeah.
So because I was sometimes I follow this guy on YouTube, and basically he had to put his UK athlete number to get into the London Marathon because he did a qualifying time or something like
championship
that.
Time, probably.
A championship time. Yeah. Okay.
So you need to qualify for a championship time. I think for men it's under 2:40 now. I think it used to be 2:45. I think it's 2:40. We can double check that. But you also have to be affiliated with a running club, so you have to be registered under UK Athletics as well. So
all right,
that's quite a big target time to get a championship place in London.
Okay. So, I mean, I've talked about you've done quite a few marathons around the world. Was there any? Which one was your favourite?
It's so hard to say.
You've done Valencia. That must have been quite nice.
I think that's been my favourite. Probably is my favourite, but that's one that I've come into in the last 3 or 4 years. I've pretty much done it every year in the last 4 or 5 years, barring COVID.
Yeah.
But wind the clock up a little bit further back, and the main target was to complete all 6 marathon majors. So that was, obviously, I had London and then Chicago, where I went sub-3 for the first time.
Right.
And then I followed up with Berlin, which was probably my biggest jump in performance. I jumped down to 2:35.
Right.
So there's a 25-minute gap in between my second and my third marathon. So that's where I thought, I might actually be able to go somewhere with this.
Okay.
And then, so obviously I had 3 of the majors, and then I had to tick off the other 3. So, Boston, New York, and then finished with Tokyo.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a lot of... lucky I worked for an airline.
Oh, right.
So, that always helps. But, a lot of travelling, a lot of logistical planning, and particularly Tokyo. I remember I got there on the Tuesday night or maybe the Monday night before the marathon.
Yeah.
And by the weekend, I was still struggling with jet lag a little bit. So that's something to bear in mind for anyone who's on that 6 major marathon journey with Tokyo. It's, it's tough.
Okay. I mean, we'll get into your business at the moment, but because you've kind of progressed in times, what do you think has been the secret for you to kind of, getting faster? I mean, has there been anything? I mean, because obviously you've avoided injury. I mean, has there been anything that you're doing, which has kind of meant that you are able to avoid injury and also able to improve your performance?
Yeah, well, firstly, I am very fortunate that I've only had really 2 injuries. I wouldn't even call them major injuries, more sort of like issues with a hamstring and a glute. Yeah. So that's in the space of, what we're talking, 13 years is incredibly fortunate, really.
Wow.
And to have, so being able to train block on block consistently is a massive advantage, because injuries are so prevalent in training, and especially marathon training, such a high impact sport.
Yes.
I think I look back and I think my jump from sort of like 3:20 to 3 hours, obviously there was a lot of sort of like natural progression and fitness, but I corrected a lot of things that went wrong in London. So I made every mistake I probably could make with fueling and pacing and this, that and the other with equipment. So I corrected that in Chicago and got below 3 hours. So I eliminated a lot of mistakes and learned so much from the first marathon. And for Berlin, so making that jump from 3 hours, or 2:59 to 2:35, I think it was just a structured training plan, really, to be honest, a real focused, dedicated session, and like building a training week. And I joined a local running club, West Four Harriers.
All right.
So pretty much just doing that and running with people of a higher ability than myself. So we'd do something like hills on a Tuesday, intervals on a Thursday and a long run on a Sunday.
Right.
And I raced a little bit more. Done Reading half in, I think it was the first time I'd gone under 2:15. So that immediately made me think, oh, look, in Berlin, I could be on or should be on for a big PB here. Yeah. So a structured training week was the big jump there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that sort of like, I suppose that transitioning into, your business, then is that kind of a piece of advice that people who are kind of not kind of the beginners, but kind of intermediate, that they are to structure that week, to help with their running?
So
would that be, a good piece of advice, let's say, you would give to people to help to structure that week, maybe using, intervals, tempo runs, that kind of thing?
He'll work in the endurance phase of a training block, so like the first 6 to 8 weeks of a training block, depending on how long your block is, of course.
Yeah.
Building strength in your legs, getting that base foundation of fitness is really key.
Yeah.
And then we tend to move on to event-specific training. So for a marathon, you'll be hitting marathon pace workouts.
Right.
But that's also not to say that you neglect your 3 to 5K pace, because there's definite advantages, and you should definitely get that sort of pace work into marathon training as well. If not once a week, maybe every 10 days.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, moving on to your business. So, what made you start?
I think I've been thinking about it for quite a few years, actually. And I just love the atmosphere of going to races, and everyone's on the same page pretty much. There's a lot of nervous tension at the beginning. And then invariably at the end, there's like not hysteria, but elation. Yeah, getting the event done, and masses of PBs and people breaking new barriers, and I just wanted to help people achieve that, really, and people to get or my coachees to get the same benefit out of running that I clearly have in the last 13, 14 years. So I'm very passionate about it.
Okay,
and the benefits of running, the mental aspect, and just general well-being. Yeah.
So you have a coach yourself?
I used to.
Oh, right.
Up to about 2 years ago. So I was coached by David Cholfin, who coaches at Highgate Harriers.
Right.
And he is a long-term coach, 10, 15, 20 years probably.
Okay.
And a lot of my philosophy comes from him naturally. But I started my business and I was coaching for a year or two. And I was also being coached by David. So you do often find that coaches are coached by coaches. And so on. It's like a second eye accountability. It's not just writing a training plan.
Right. Yeah. So you started to take the plunge and started your business with the coaching business. So how did you sort of like get people to let you know that you were doing this? And what was it like? What were your first clients like? Were they people who were kind of raw beginners, or were they people who had been running for quite a while?
I'd say they're more on the beginning side. Yeah, that they'd have done a few races before, which is good. I wouldn't take on someone who just starts out with a marathon and says, "Look, in 3 months' time, I'm doing a marathon." I want runners to have trained for a half marathon previously, ideally, because the injury risk is so high for a marathon if you haven't got like a base level of fitness of training behind you.
How did you go about the marketing yourself? So
social media is a massive help these days. You can obviously set up all your accounts for free, and you can advertise your business to limitless amounts of people in theory all over the world. So yes, I've got coachees not just based in the UK but in Europe as well. We work overseas, and the advantages,
Oh, you do work overseas as well?
I've got coachees that work overseas.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so mostly they'll be based in the southeast because it'll be based on Google adverts and stuff. But
right. Okay.
I've got a few coachees in like the Midlands and further north. So it's
So coachees, what's coachees?
clients, athletes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Is that a word, coaches?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe in the running, in the running world, it is. Yeah. So athletes. Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Okay. And that's a wrap for another exhilarating episode of Brian's Run Pod. Thanks for tuning in, folks. As always, we've got your back with all things running. And next week, get ready for some awesome beginner hints and tips to kickstart your running journey. Oh, and before we sign off, exciting news. We're now available on YouTube. So whether you're pounding the pavement or chilling at home, you can catch us there too. Hey, if you want to keep up with the latest updates, behind the scenes fun, and even some exclusive content, make sure to follow me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, or should I say X, at Brian's Run Pod. We've also just launched a shiny new Facebook page. Simply search for Brian's Run Pod and give us a like. And don't forget to hop on over to Instagram, where you can catch all our visual adventures at Brian's Run Pod. For those of you who love diving deep into the episodes, head over to our website, www.briansrunpod.co.uk, and there you'll find detailed show notes, handy chapter markers, make it too easy to navigate through our favourite discussions. Please leave a review, as it will always help others find this podcast. Music is by Happy Days by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.